Ollie was, suffice it to say, minding his own business. He was just hanging out at a bar, but by himself, just having a beer at one of the outside tables, just relaxing after a long day of, you know, detecting things. When something happened that he just couldn't ignore. See, as he sat there, a bunch of unicycles approached. That would be strange enough on its own. But I feel like I should clarify, because I didn't say unicyclists. I said unicycles. All by themselves. Or so it appeared anyway. There was probably 30, maybe 40 of them. Not all in a big pack, but kind of in a loose grouping, stretched out over maybe a block. A block, like a half block. Well, I thought that was quite strange. I mean, everyone thought it was strange. It was strange. They didn't just think it. It was strange. And Ollie tried to just drink his beer and let it pass by, but then all of a sudden one of these cycles fell over. I thought he heard a scampering noise, but wasn't sure. He said, it's just presenting itself. I know what I need to do here. So he finished the rest of his beer as fast as he could. He yelled at the waitress, "I'll be back." He ran over and he grabbed the unicycle and he gave chase. Now for Ollie, he was fully engaged now in figuring out what was going on with these self-driving unicycles. It seemed to shimmer a little bit as he ran up to get a little closer. He picked up the unicycle, and it seemed to be a normal unicycle. It didn't, struggle and fight him. He'd ridden a unicycle a couple of times. He wasn't like an expert unicyclist, but he figured it's worth a shot. So he jumped on and started riding after them. And then the world got to see a bunch of unicycles riding themselves down the street, followed by an octopus on a unicycle. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. Well, after, 30, 45 seconds or so, it seemed like the unicycles noticed that Ollie had gotten on one of them and was giving chase, because they tightened up their grouping. They stopped being so spread apart and they started to go faster. And so a chase it was. It was a little bit dangerous because they weren't necessarily following all the traffic laws. They were going through stoplights and stuff like that. But honestly, everything stopped around them because, there it was, this large group of unicycles riding without the assistance of a person, or so it seemed, followed in a hot pursuit by an octopus riding a unicycle. And if I was driving down the street and I saw that, I would stop. And so people did. They were headed north on St. Paul Street. And they went up that way, up past all the shops, up near the hospital, and they turned left, up University, went up past the cathedral. And there's a lot of unicycling for Ollie. Ollie's in pretty good shape, but this is a hill they were going up. It's not something that he was used to. And some of the unicycles looked like they were struggling too. Some of them were just going just fine, but others were sort of lagging back and then catching back up and wobbling a little bit. They got to the top of the hill, and then it was kind of easier from there. Now, one of the quirks of a unicycle, most unicycles anyway, is that it's not like a regular bike where you can just coast. The pedals are attached right to the spindle in most cases of the wheel. So even if you don't have to push to go up a hill, you still have to move the pedals. Or the pedals will move, I should say, as you're going downhill. So you can't rest as much as you do with a regular bike. And so they kept on going, and Ollie kept giving chase. They started to go down the hill. That was harder for Ollie. It was easier to balance when he was able to push and bounce a little bit, but having to just keep up with these now fast-spinning wheels that weren't like brakes, it was hard. It was not something he was used to. He was struggling a little bit, but he didn't want to give up. He wanted to figure out what's going on. And they got to the bottom of the hill. They all turned left and headed toward the Hopkins campus. Then they went with Ollie gaining on them behind. It's hard to unicycle in a big group like that on tight corners. And off they went down by the physics building and around, and Ollie gaining on them, gaining ever so slowly. And as Ollie got a little bit closer, he could see that there was, still kind of a shimmer. It almost looked like they were a little bit out of focus, at least at the top. I was confused and intrigued. And he rode, and he rode, and he rode, and they rode, and they rode, and they rode. And all around San Martin Drive, and then they turned left onto the Hopkins campus. And then they rode around the Hopkins campus. And they went through the tunnel. And for a second, Ollie thought he had lost them. But then he spotted them going back toward the physics building, down along the road there. They'd kind of ducked around and gone onto the president's lawn, but Ollie spotted them. And in fact, he saw an opportunity. He took a shortcut. Well, more accurately, they took a long cut trying to lose him, and he took the regular road. And then he was right up next to them. And he started saying, "Stop. Tell me what's going on here. I've got to know. I'm caught up to you. Whatever you are. I don't know if you're robots or what. But I'm going to find out." And he started reaching a tentacle out to try and sort of swat at the closest one. When it became clear that Ollie was going to be able to get it, was able to grab onto the unicycle, all of a sudden he heard a loud whistle. The unicycles all got up on the sidewalk, stopped, turned. Ollie stopped and faced them. He thought, oh no. What's going on here? And then one of the unicycles stood straight up and then slowly went down to the ground. Well, the seat part slowly went down to the ground, almost as if it was being set down. And I wasn't sure, but he thought he could hear footsteps. And that sort of shimmery, out of focus look, Ollie realized it was growing. It wasn't just the very top of the unicycle anymore. It was covering all the unicycles and some of the sidewalk behind him. I wasn't sure what was going on. It kind of felt like he wanted to run away, but his curiosity was more than he could ignore. And then all of a sudden there was a voice. It said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Ollie the Octopus, Private Eye. Who are you?" I said, "I'm not sure I want to tell you that. Why are you following us?" I said, "Well, you seem to be a ghost, a set of ghosts riding unicycles. It's a pretty unusual sight. You had to know somebody was going to follow you." I said, "Well, we didn't think you were going to get a unicycle. We thought it would be fun to take out on a tour, but you sound like a human," Ollie said. The voice said, "Well, that's because I am a human." Ollie said, "But you're invisible." I said, "Well, I'm grateful for that at least. Yes. And he could hear the voice kind of hesitating. And then he heard another voice back from over by the unicycles. It's fine. I know, I've seen his stuff. He'll keep it quiet. I said, all right. All right. You're a private eye. You can keep secrets, right? I said, I suppose. It's part of my job. All right. Here's what's going to happen. I'll pay you $100 and you can keep our secret. Deal? And I said, yeah. All right. So you're going to pay me $100 and tell me why you're invisible. And all I have to do is not tell anyone. So that's right. Got it in cash here in my pocket. Well, I said, all right, that's a deal. I mostly wanted to know myself anyway. I said, all right. And I saw a little line kind of appear about 5 feet off the ground. A flesh-colored line. And it expanded up, and Ollie said, that's a neck. And the voice said, that's right. And the visible part expanded, came up, and there was a chin and a mouth and a nose and some hair and some eyes and a forehead and hair, and it was a person's floating head. It was an older lady, and well, not older, but like in her 50s. She had gray, short hair, bright, piercing blue eyes, and kind of an olive skin. She said, we're experimenting with a new, well, it's a cloaking technology, Ollie. We're researchers here in the physics department. We've got these new cloaking suits, and we really wanted to give them a trial. And, well, we had this idea, because a bunch of the people in my research group are from China, and apparently in China, everyone knows how to unicycle. So we'd all kind of gotten into it as a lab, and all learned to unicycle as like a team-building thing. So my whole lab, now we all know how to unicycle. So we decided what would be fun is we could go out at night, test our cloaking suits by going around the neighborhood in a unicycle. But what happened was Mike Chen, he fell off of his unicycle. He didn't know what to do, so he just ran. He ran all the way back. So that's the unicycle you picked up. Mike was on it. I said, oh, so it is a regular unicycle, but you've got a special suit. It's making you invisible on the unicycle. She said, that's right, but listen, I'm serious, you can't tell anybody. This research is on a military contract. So, if you told anybody that that you even saw an invisibility suit, or a cloaking suit anyway, that could mess up the whole thing. It's all about the element of surprise. I said, all right. Scout's honor, and he held up one tentacle. He said, I'll keep this to myself. How much would a cloaking suit cost? She said, oh, well, we don't really have a price set yet. It would be expensive. It's a space-age material you've never even heard of. It's got little fiber optic channels inside. They're not cheap. I don't know if you could afford it on a private eye salary. I said, that's all right. Let me show you. And I changed his color and changed the texture of his skin a little bit, because octopuses can do that. And he blended right into the pavement. She said, wow, that was fast. I said, yeah. It takes practice, but yeah, that's something that we octopuses can do. I said, say, you want to come in and, teach us a little bit about how you do that? Let us look at your skin as you change colors and change textures. We might be able to learn and make a whole different kind of invisibility suit or a different kind of cloaking suit. I said, tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll come in and you can study my color changing and texture changing if you make me one of these cloaking suits that you've got on now. The professor laughed. He said, all right. Here's the deal. If we can figure out a way to reverse engineer your coloring thing, then we'll make you one of these suits. I said, no deal. You gotta promise me a suit or I'm not coming into the lab. I know that what I've got could be valuable to you. I said, all right, you drive a hard bargain, but all right. We'll make you a suit if you agree to come in and let us study your cloaking. I said, all right, you got yourself a deal. He extended a tentacle out, and an invisible hand shook his tentacle, and it was a deal. And that was Ollie and the case of the self-driving unicycle.